fact of these continuous and pertinent now conflict brewing in the Middle East. Now, also tracking that the Israeli Defense Forces have said that some 20 rockets were fired from Lebanon towards the Haifa area within the past hour. The military said that most of the projectiles were intercepted while others struck open ground. Additionally, further rockets were fired a few minutes later towards the Galilee area. Those two were either the intercepted or hit non-populated area. Major General Roger Kochhar, when we are coming back to how intense the situation has become in fact on the ground, as you have very correctly put it, that it is now not going to be solved. The crisis of the civilians and the residents, and thousands and millions of them right now trying to flee the conflicted zone, it is not going to be managed on its own. The United Nations has to rope in. But when we are talking about such developments that we are tracking at this point of time, further rockets are fired just minutes later. How do you also view the statement which are being made in this regard by Israel's UN envoy Danny Danon on the situation in the Middle East, saying that in fact they have a lot of options at this point of time, and Israel is having options when it comes to striking back at Iran in its response to the missile attacks. How does this in fact impact the prevailing situation and the crisis?
You see, now what Israel is doing is, right now, I don't think there will be strike on Iran in the next 48 hours at least. I don't visualize Israel actually getting into that mode right now. What Israel has done is it has intensified its campaign into Lebanon. And Beirut, we have seen yesterday, there has been a tremendous amount of firepower and missile and rockets showered in those areas and targeting certain intelligence-based operation. And the new incumbent who has been announced to take over from Nasrallah, he is also being targeted now. His location is also being ascertained, because what Israel is intending to do is that keep the Hezbollah leadership in a limbo and out of communication with its military commanders on the field. Because see, how Hezbollah operates is, as far as the military operations is concerned, is there is a central leadership, and then we have localized leadership who are fighting specific battles. So now these groups are already on the ground, and what I'm given to understand is the Israeli troops are facing heavy resistance on a number of places. The encounters are going on, and casualties are happening on both sides. We heard yesterday about 8 Israelis. I think more casualties are coming in, and we also heard around 20 Hezbollah fighters were killed yesterday. So today's inputs, I have not seen anything coming on this front, but shortly we'll come to know exactly what are the casualties. So if you see this kind of an operation being planned, there is going to be a lot of impetus now. I believe those 2 divisions which are at the border now, they are just waiting for a green signal to move into Lebanon, because ultimately this 29 kilometers of this buffer zone is going to be created. And it's not going to happen in a matter of days. Let me tell you, it's going to take months, because last 2006 war lasted 34 days, and it didn't actually give a feeling of victory for Israel, because they lost a number of men. So this time I think Israel is planning to go in a slightly more deliberate manner, and that is why I'm worried about these refugees, these people who are stranded in this 29-kilometer stretch. There are lakhs of people here who are staying here, and the buffer zone was intended to keep this area relatively free from any kind of skirmish or a fire. But today, what we are observing is that this, in spite of the UN agreement, we are finding this buffer zone has got plenty of Hezbollah fighters here. It clearly indicates that the Israel Defense Forces have to fight really hard now, because 7 to 8 encounters, I believe, are still going on, and it become very difficult to move ahead if these kind of forces are going to be in front of the Israel Defense Forces. And last point here is that Hezbollah is quite well trained. They have 30 to 40,000 fighters, and they are not like Hamas. So I think Israel understands this, that Hezbollah is a different kettle of fish, and it is going to take a long time. But at the same time, we will have to move the United Nations, we'll have to move the International Red Cross Organization, and we will have to designate safe areas where these refugees can be established into camps. And for that, I think Lebanon would have to initiate.
Major General, in fact, those camps at the West Bank are also hit by the missiles. So it is in fact of a greater concern that even amid proposing a resolution, it is in fact becoming difficult for the world to see a breakthrough in trying to save these civilians and those who have not been engaged in direct war with these fighting regions, in fact.
I think you're right, because this violation of the Geneva Convention is a big issue, and these conventions were actually made for this very reason, that we don't target the civilians. But unfortunate, we have seen in the case of Israel that a large number of civilians in Gaza have been targeted. Refugee camps in Gaza have also been targeted. So there is no surety here that these civilians who are going to be put into refugee camps in Syria, southern part of Syria as well as Lebanon, are going to be safe. But I think there has to be a method in this madness, because you can't just fire on refugee camps. That shows that your intent or your political aim is different. Your political aim is to not only finish Hezbollah, your political aim relates to ethnic cleansing. So if you are resorting to this ethnic cleansing, I think the world has to take note of it. And these superpowers, I don't think, can wait and watch any longer.
All right. All right, Major General Rajan Kochhar, thank you for speaking to NewsX and giving us your time at this moment on the broadcast. We are going to currently track all the latest developments that are happening in the Middle East. Now, moving on, amidst the ongoing Israel-Gaza conflict, at least 1.9 million people, which is 9 in the 10 Gazans, have been displaced at least once. Moving from the unsafe place to another, an estimate of 43,600 are pregnant women, and many of these Gazans have been still living in refugee camps with the limited access to even basic amenities. All right.